Hello and welcome back to another edition of the GSMC College Football Podcast presented to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. Happy Memorial Day, everyone. Today is Monday, May 26th, Memorial Day, if you're with us in the U.S. If not, happy Monday. Got a good show for you today. It's going to be a big, kind of fun day. Just a couple different lists we're going to go over. Coaches who had the best college football playing careers. We're also going to go over some of the group of 5 top quarterbacks today. And we're going to continue on with my Big Ten rankings. Make sure we stick around for that. That's going to be at the end of the show. We're going to start today, though, by talking about the Big Ten SEC current college football playoff proposed plan, kind of what it sounds like right now. We're going to get into all that, though. But before I do anything else, I just want to remind everybody, this show is all about you. We love hearing your comments, your questions, your insights, your opinions, your hot takes, whatever you got. We want to hear it. We want to make this show as interactive, as exciting as possible. Now, one easy way to do that, if you're on YouTube, you can use the Super Chat feature. To use the Super Chat feature, all you have to do is click the $sign at the bottom of the chat box, type in your message there, send that in, and this guarantees that your message gets on the air, gets read live. It's also just a great way to support our channel, support what we're trying to build here at GSMC. We couldn't do what we do without your ongoing support, and we're so grateful to have you all here as a part of our community. Now, if you're not on YouTube, if Super Chat's not your thing, you can also go to gsmcpodcast.net to leave a comment, a question there as well. Tip, donate, do whatever there. Again, that link for the website is gsmcpodcast.net. Now, I want to dive into college football playoff new proposal from the Big Ten, the SEC. Now, this has been something that we've kind of seen throughout college football, where we've seen this kind of Big Ten SEC takeover of sorts, and this idea, it's kind of coming to fruition. It might be happening sooner rather than later now. There's kind of been momentum building towards future expansion of the college football playoff, according to Yahoo Sports, featuring kind of a bevy of automatic bids for each conference. Now, the contract for the 12-team format, and its recently kind of adopted straight seeding model that ends this year, after 2025. That current contract, it's not going to extend past that year. And this has been something that we don't really know what's going to happen next. Power Conference commissioners, they've kind of met earlier this month with future playoff formats being discussed. That's the main topic of conversation right now. And there's kind of been, quote, growing support for the Big Ten and the SEC's proposal. So these two conferences, it really sounds like they're going to have all the momentum here of making any kind of decision for the college football playoff future. They're going to influence the next round of expansion more than anybody else. And kind of how the format plays out, it gives them pretty much sole enacting power as the enforcement arm of the power commissioners, essentially. Under the 16-team proposal, there's going to be 8 auto bids for the Big Ten and the SEC. There's going to be 4 each for each conference, and there's going to be 2 ACC qualifiers, 2 Big 12 qualifiers, 1 group of 5, and then 3 at-large bids. So we're going to see automatic bids, it sounds like. Each conference is going to get at least a little bit. SEC meetings began this week, kind of with an exploration, too, of a 9-game conference schedule. That's something that's been on the front burner of conversations around the SEC, and that's something that the Big Ten does already. They do a 9-game conference schedule. Everybody kind of wants the SEC to follow suit right now. The only way it kind of sounds like they would really agree to this would be additional inclusion in a future playoff format or a bigger payday from their TV contract. Really, I mean, money talks always. That's kind of how it normally goes. Excuse me 1 second. I apologize. I'm going to be right back on this show. My allergies are acting up. I'm going to take 1 minute, and I'll be right back here on the GSMC College Football Podcast. I apologize for that quick little intermission there. It's allergy season here in Ohio. Always kind of gets you in the spring. But we're moving on. We're going to push through. And it sounds like, so the SEC and the Big Ten, they're really kind of pushing this entire conversation. The 4 automatic bids for each conference, it kind of seems like that is a huge sticking point right now. Both the SEC and the Big Ten, they really want this. They want to make sure that they have a guaranteed number of spots in the playoff each year. And it's something that they can kind of force the other conferences to agree with, right? When they had that meeting last year, when they were able to kind of get pretty much everybody throughout the FBS to agree to, hey, you two are going to lead the conversations around the college football playoff. You two are going to be the big decision makers here, and Tony Petitti, Greg Sankey from the Big Ten and the SEC, they kind of gave these two guys all this power. So they can ask for this. They can go, hey, we want 4 bids each. We're not going to do anything else. We're not going to change this format unless we get this. And they kind of have the power right now to do that because they were given it, essentially, by the other commissioners last year. It's going to be interesting, though, too. There's also discussions around play-in games, what's going to happen there. And especially with the Big Ten and the SEC. So essentially kind of how this would work is they would have play-in games during conference championship weekend every year, and those would determine the other auto bids. So essentially what would happen is the 2 teams who would appear in the league championship in that game, those would be 2 of the auto bids kind of regardless. And then it'd be the number 3 team in the conference versus the number 6 team in the conference, and the number 4 team versus the number 5 team in the conference to determine the other 2 at-large auto bids for the conference. Not at large, but I kind of like that. I think it would be interesting how that would actually work out, especially in a league like the SEC where, you know, they're 5 to 6 kind of top teams. They're all right there. You look at last year, Alabama, Ole Miss, South Carolina were all in that 15 kind of ish range, but they would be the 3, 4, 5 teams from the SEC, and then you have a team like Texas A&M kind of. Those matchups would be really interesting. They'd add a lot of intrigue kind of to who gets in to the college football playoff. I don't know what it does to the actual conference championship, right? At that point, does winning the SEC, does winning the Big Ten, does it even kind of bring anything to the table? I don't know. I think it wouldn't really matter, right, at the end of the day, because even if you get to the conference championship, you're still guaranteed a chance to win a national championship. You're still guaranteed a spot in the playoff. So at that point, does winning the conference really matter? I guess for bragging rights, maybe, but besides that, kind of, there's no inherent advantage at that point. You may get a top 4 seed and a bit bye at that point, but besides that, there's really no big advantage, I would say. Another kind of interesting tidbit here with this is both the SEC and the Big Ten are in favor of the idea of a, quote, double bye for the number 1 and the 2 seeds. So how this would work in their proposed 16-team bracket, the first round would consist of 2 games. The 16th seed would play the 13th seed, and then the 15 and the 14 seed teams would play each other. Those 2 winners of those matchups would then move on to the second round. So the 15-14 winner would play the number 4 seed at their home field, and then the 16-13 winner would play the number 3 seed at their home field. And then the other second round matchups would be 10-7, 11-6, 9-8, 12-5, kind of rounding out the slate. That's kind of interesting. I guess it does make sense. If I was a number 1-2 seed, though, I don't even know if I want a double bye. If you think about it, all 4 teams that had a bye last year lost. If you get 2 of those weeks off, you won't be playing football for a month, essentially. And that's a long time to kind of be off. In a sport that's so intensive, so much on your body physically, taking that much time off and then having to come back and get back in that swing of things of just the physicality aspect, that's a big time gap. Would you really want to not be playing for a month, essentially, if you're the 2 seed? I don't know if I would want that personally. I would probably rather be one of the 3 or 4 seeds, and you then play a team that already played a first round matchup. You play a lesser ranked opponent, and yes, you're not getting that second bye, but still at the end of the day, it probably evens out a little bit, I would think. And that kind of ties into the title game conversation. If it kind of played out like last year, right, where the top 4 seeds are the winners of and the runners-up of the Big Ten and the SEC, if you lose the SEC or Big Ten championship, you're a Georgia or a Texas, something like that, and you're then the 3 seed because you lost the conference championship, it would kind of almost be better at that point, I would think, from my kind of perspective. So what's the incentive of winning your conference? I don't know. I don't really think. It's going to be interesting to see how that kind of plays out too. This whole idea of what it does to conference championship games. Does it even kind of move the needle at all? I think that's going to be an interesting part of it. 16 kind of seems like the sweet spot. It kind of seems like everybody's happy with 16. 14 really had a lot of momentum at some point, but it seems like 16 is the sweet spot. It kind of gives access to everybody and kind of alleviates a lot of the issues with the 12-team format. Tony Petitti pretty seems dug in really on this idea of automatic bids. Sankey's not going against him, so it seems like this is going to be something that's going to be pushed forward as well, is the idea of the automatic bid, how we're going to get there. And this agreement's going to kick in 2026, so obviously we have this year, but after that, we're not sure. Nothing's agreed upon. This is just kind of one of the ideas being thrown around, but it seems like this is getting a lot of momentum at this point in time. We're going to have to see how it all shakes out. We're probably going to end up seeing 16 teams in the college football playoff sooner rather than later, though. So right now, we are going to take our first break of the show. When we come back, we're going to talk Big 12. We're going to talk about some of the best rivalries in a conference where a lot of rivalries got lost over the past few seasons. We're going to talk about some of the good ones, some of the ones that this conference still has. So stick with us. We'll be back on the GSMC College Football Podcast.